Parents, have you ever thought your child was dating someone who was too good for them? What happened in the end between them? Story 1. My parents have been married for almost 30 years, and when they were engaged, my dad's parents separately on 2 occasions straight up asked my mom if they were sure she wanted to marry him. Being like 22 at the time, she thought it was because they didn't like her. It was not that at all. I love my dad, but he has some mental learning and emotional maturity issues that mean that even though he is going to be 54, he functions as a 15 to 18-year-old kid. That wasn't so obvious back then when he was 25 to 30, but it is now. My grandfather and my mother used to commiserate about how they were married to the same person. My grandmother is just as bad as my dad. My grandmother is wildly unaware of her own issues, but recognizes my dad's problems and was trying to subtly warn my mother off. On my mom's side of the family, my uncle married a woman who's lucky to stay with him because he has a severely paranoid personality. Also, my grandmother is getting married to a longtime friend in April, and he could do so much better than her. They are happy, but we already decided we are keeping him and getting rid of her if need be. I mean, the big thing to remember with a lot of this stuff is sometimes, the people in the relationship who you're going to and going like, oh, are you sure you want to be with this other person? That person might see something in that other person that you don't, or they may find something in that person that balances really well with their own personality, That's not saying that all of these work out great and that people are always wrong, but people don't necessarily have the same perspective and understanding that you do. So I'll just say this at the top of the video, folks. If someone's trying to warn you off of a relationship because they're just like, he just doesn't seem like he fits with you, you might know better. Story 2. Well, my brother's girlfriend is definitely too good for him, or was, and this has been discussed by my mother and I, and she agrees. So what's become of it is my brother was once a felonious piece of crap that refused to hold a job despite myself or my mom hooking him up with the job in the first place. He sold nose candy in a local bar every night, got crap-faced and geeked up in said bar, and would frequently get in fights, usually at that bar. Since he had been dating this girl, he had quit smoking cigarettes, over a year now, maybe longer. He has also been sober for a year and a half. He doesn't do nose candy anymore either, but still sells it to a couple close buddies. He has a job and also does his own thing repairing and refurbishing game consoles, so it does have a happy ending in this case. They are very happy together, and I guess technically he is still a felon, and some things will never change about him, but he's better at hiding his piece of crap tendencies and has really grown as a person. Well, I'm glad to hear that this story has a happy ending. It sounds happy enough to me, To each their own. I hope that they're happy and that he's at least not a piece of crap to his partner. Story 3. In 1991, I was 17 and working for the local carnival at the time during the summers for fun, under-the-table cash, and giving girls free rides on the Scrambler. One cute girl invited me on a date, and her father met me at the door with a gun and said that his daughter had a headache and couldn't come out. Joke's on her, though. I turned out to be really nice, a good family man, and a generally successful businessman. The carnival boss fired me at the end of the second summer because he said, "You don't fit in here. You should be running a business like this, not working for one. Go do better for yourself." I look back on that day and wish I could go back 23 years and tell that boss thanks. He was old at the time and probably dead now, but he was a good boss. Thank God for him. Story 4. My younger stepsister's ex-boyfriend was definitely too good for her. Not that she set the bar very high for that. He was a sweet guy. He wanted to settle down and be with her forever. They bought a house together. They adopted dogs together. He's lucky they didn't end up having kids together. I don't know all the details as I'm hearing them all secondhand from my mom, but evidently my sister ran off with another guy during a manic episode. She left him with a mortgage he can't pay on his own and will probably end up in foreclosure. Apparently, there's also been some domestic violence in the last few months. And to top things off, she's recently bought a gun. Jason, if you're reading this, be safe and stay away from her. You're better off. Story 5. My sister had that too good of a boyfriend for 5 years. Every time I could, I would tell him to run away from that crazy girl as fast and as far as he could. But he didn't listen. My parents probably felt the same way because that dude was awesome as F. She was so mean and condescending to him, it was unbearable to watch. He didn't need that crap. He was better than that. And when she finally dumped him for no reason, he got drunk and almost killed himself driving his car, losing his license. He's now struggling to work without a car, but he's freed. Now she's crazier than ever, psychosis and crap, but he's finally freed. Freed, but not healed. Okay, and this is where maybe you should listen to other people when they're just like, oh, no, you're too good for this person. Because if there are things about the other person like, hey, this other person is condescending to you and treats you really, really inappropriately, that is something that you should maybe take to heart and kind of process a little bit, because you might not be realizing that. When you're in a relationship, you tend to block some of that stuff out, but it does build up inside of you and can be kind of bad. So I'm not saying that people telling you that someone else is abusive are always right, but I am saying that you shouldn't outright dismiss them in that instance. Story 6. My dad has liked very few of my boyfriends over the last 20 years. I remember one he particularly liked. I had been living with him for about a year. When he fell in love with someone else, he gave me my 30-day notice. I was devastated and called my dad asking if I could move home. My dad's response? How did you F this one up, Rockstar81? The one I actually liked was. My grandma will hardly speak to me after breaking up with the nice Jewish boy. She really liked him. Last time we visited, she asked about him. Thankfully, he and I are still friends, so I can give her updates. She still talks about how I should have held on for dear life instead of walking away over something as silly as religion because, after all, you can fake faith. Story 7. So I met my significant other while they lived in England. For a month leading up to their first flight over here, their mother would serve breakfast each morning, then lovingly and silently said a news article about someone getting AR'd or murdered in America next to the plate. After being over here for 2 weeks, we're talking to Mom over Skype and she smiles at me and proceeds to read off a list of every single address I've ever had since I turned 18. Fast forward to where we've been living together for 3 years. We get into a fight and my significant other calls Mom and says something to the effect of, sometimes I get so mad I could just walk out. The next day, Mom calls back and says, I bought the plane tickets you asked for. You can leave for home in 3 weeks. Mom spends the next 3 weeks convincing my significant other that they're a terrible person for wanting to waste all that money, and Rianne is a horrible pile of crap, and now you have to go back. Everyone's so looking forward to seeing you again. And now we've been together for 7 years. Okay, I've heard horror stories about moms/mother-in-laws being a little too much, but oh my word, just what an unpleasant thing to do to you. I know that it's coming from a place of love from this mother, but that's just so disrespectful and kind of gross. She needs to get over that stuff. I hope now that you've been together 7 years, I hope she's starting to get better. And if not, I wouldn't blame you if you never wanted to have to communicate with that person again, because that's just mean. Story 8. My last relationship wasn't good enough for their son. I'm from a big family, working class background, and despite holding multiple degrees and having an excellent job with a prestigious company, his parents thought I wasn't well bred enough. They never even met me, but had decided because I had 5 siblings, was from a suburban town in another state, and my parents never graduated high school, I just wasn't good enough. I had lived overseas, am well-traveled, conservative/vintage dress sense, etc., etc. I even changed the way I spoke long before I met him when I first moved to my current city because my accent sounded bogan/chavs/trailer trash. Nope, I still wasn't good enough for their precious little snowflake who still lives at home. And it didn't help that I wasn't Jewish. We broke up because his dad started a fight with him about the fact that he wasn't mature enough for a serious relationship. He was 27 at the time. Story 9. I was on the other end of this, dating a guy whose mother thought I was too good for him. I lived with them for a time, and some days she would look at me all concerned and ask me what I was doing with her son. At the time, my favorite argument to all the people telling me things like that was, I want him, so that makes him the best option for me. She was right, and I did leave him eventually. I still see his parents sometimes, though. They were lovely people. I'd have been homeless for much longer in my younger years if not for them. My current significant other's mom hated me when we first started dating, so I was the bad partner too. She said I came with too much baggage and refused to acknowledge my existence for months. We've been together 8 years now, and she and I have grown close. Now I can't get her to stop talking. Story 10. My dad likes my husband better than me. I guess I must have some sort of Freudian complex because my husband basically has the same personality as my dad. The second they met, they were thick as thieves. They chat on Skype all the time, and this summer they're going on a road trip from the UK across Europe to Lithuania together. I guess it's fair, though, because it's pretty obvious that my husband's dad likes me more than him. We're both more serious, we both enjoy history and architecture. When he comes up to Scotland to visit us, we travel around to all the old castles and burial sites while my husband goofs off somewhere. Actually, now that I think about it, my husband and I might have accidentally traded dads. Story 11. My entire family thought my ex was too good for me. They constantly spoke the world of him, and even when we'd been dating for like 5 months, they all talked about us getting married. He's very smart, polite, and cute, I guess. We only ended up dating for like a year and a half, but when I broke up with him, crap hit the fan. They all just kept asking me why I couldn't make things work and how great of a guy he was. We broke up in August, and my extended family was still talking about him and asking about him at Christmas. Definitely makes you feel like crap when your own family won't believe you that the relationship was horrible and that the guy really isn't that great. Oh, see, now we got the other side of things, where your family thinks that the other person was so great and doesn't believe you when it's horrible. Once again, folks, when it comes to relationships, you don't have the same perspective as the people in the relationship. You don't know everything that they're going through, most likely. And so if someone tries to tell you, like, no, this person wasn't that great, they were actually kind of crappy and even abusive, they might know more than you, so maybe believe them when they tell you that. Story 12. A few years back, I was hanging out with this girl who I was really into. Her parents were divorced, and she lived with her father, who was a really cool guy who I got on very well with. One day, she was out with her mom and got back a bit later than she meant to when we were supposed to hang out, so I was just chilling and chatting with her dad. He told me, "You know, Bundy, I know you care for her a lot, and I gotta thank you for being there for her. She was broken, and you put the pieces back together while all I could do was watch. You're indefinitely better than the last guy she was seeing, and I really hope she sees that. But for your sake, don't wait around for her if she doesn't." Story 13. I dated a woman who was way too good for me, and my mom acknowledged it. Does that count? I was in college, barely scraping by, and I took a year off to go volunteer in East Africa and find myself, or I guess you could put it that way. Anyway, I met this woman who was directing a music festival I volunteered at. We really clicked for some reason, but I have no idea to this day what she saw in me. It probably helped that we survived an insane bar fight that turned into a machete fight together. Well, that's the too long didn't read version. That crap builds bonds. She was a few years older than me, had 2 college degrees, and she had served in the U.S. Army. She worked as one of the highest people at one of the biggest companies on the continent. She was amazing, way out of my league. Anyway, we dated for just a couple months towards the end of my trip. I fell for her hard, and I don't think she was anywhere near as into me. When I left for home, I was really bummed. I still think about her 6 years later. I've tried to contact her a few times to see how she's doing, but I haven't heard from her since the day before I left. I think I was just some fun for her, but it was a lot more than that for me. Story 14. I was the daughter too good for the son. We were both in our early 20s, dated for 2 years. His mom was super awesome, came out as a lesbian midlife after 5 kids with his dad. One day at his grandma's house, when he was being antisocial, as per usual, she called him useless and introduced me to everyone because he wouldn't do it himself. She later warned me about his cold iron heart when he was out of the room when we came over for dinner one night. Looking back, she was trying to protect me, I think. When we broke up 2 years later, the first thing he did afterwards was drive over to his mom's house and spend about 3 hours there talking to her about it, although I don't know what was said. I'm still grateful we broke up to this day. That sounds about right. A lot of relationships in early 20s, you're still finding out about yourselves, not necessarily seeing things. Honestly, relationships at any level sometimes. When relationships are first starting out, you don't always see incompatibilities that might be obvious to other people. There's so many ways that this stuff can go. I know half the time I'm like, don't believe other people talking about your relationship. And then the other time I'm like, oh, but definitely listen to other people talking about your relationship. But also sometimes, I don't know, maybe listen to them. I don't have anything useful to say, do I? Story 15. When my ex and I were in high school, I was a high-achieving, above a 4.0 student with so many scholarships lined up, I get paid to go to college now. And he was just barely passing, despite the fact that he was very capable. She flat out said to him, in the room with me there is no way this girl is going to marry someone like you. You can't even provide for her. She was right, obviously. He never cared about school and broke up with me to go lead a life of partying. Clearly, she knew I was too good for him, and I should have taken the hint. Story 16. My sister's boyfriend is too good for her. He's dumb as a rock, but is a sweetheart. He lives over an hour away and drives every weekend to see her, almost always bringing food, candy, flowers. He pays for her every time they go out, and she constantly gets crappy at him when he has to go to work or wants to spend time with his other friends or family. She dumped him the week before his 18th birthday and took him back a month later. The day it happened, he turned up at her house with more flowers, and she got peed because he didn't tell her he was coming. Poor kid needs to dump my sister's ungrateful butt and get himself a nice girl. Story 17. Not a parent, but my boyfriend's parents actually think I'm not good enough for him. They said they want him to be with a woman that's pretty, classy, and also Asian like him. I know I'm not that classy, my style is more grunge/punk, but I'm an overall sweet girl. Looks can be deceiving. I find the race part funny though because I'm half Asian, I just don't look like it. They actually convinced him to break up with me. However, he realized he wanted to be with me and told them to back off. Parents, unless the relationship is abusive, stay out of it. Don't try to live vicariously through your child. Ooh, I like the way that this person puts things. Like, parents, unless the relationship is abusive, stay out of it. Yes, I think that is solid advice for parents, friends, other stuff. Like, yeah, if you think you see abuse, confront them, say something. But if you're just like, oh, but they're so fancy and the person that they're dating is a skater boy, they should say, see you later, boy. Just don't. Story 18. When I was 16, I managed to get a pretty damn hot 19-year-old. We dated for about 3 months and ended up being pretty good friends. We're still friends now. Maybe 5 years ago, I mentioned to my dad and stepmom that the 19-year-old had just had her first kid. My dad said, we always wondered how you dated someone like that. You were such a goddamn dork. Story 19. The first dude I dated was Chinese, and his mother would always tell him that he should find a better girl in Chinese while I was in the room. Little did she know that I, in fact, went to Chinese bilingual school for 12 years and am fluent in Chinese. So I asked where the bathroom was in her native tongue, and after I took a nice dump in their toilet, she was a lot nicer to me. Story 20. My girlfriend in high school was way too hot by an order of magnitude as far as my league of dating was concerned. So hot that I'm convinced my parents let me get away with having intercourse with her because they knew it would never happen again. Story 21. Just stopping by to make sure my dad hasn't commented on this thread. Oh, he definitely did. Sorry. Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.